Welcome to episode 144 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I speak to Andrew and Simon from the Brand New Heavies about Never Stop, their new best-of compilation. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to Joel Stoker, frontman of the Rifles, about his debut solo album, The Undertow. So check it out, and if you like the podcast, please subscribe on your favourite listening platform, give us a rating, and leave a comment. The Brand New Heavies celebrate 35 years since the release of their debut single with Never Stop, a new best-of compilation bringing together 21 hits. The band will celebrate the release with 3 special concerts in London, Manchester and Birmingham, accompanied by strings from the London Concert Orchestra. In this interview, Andrew and Simon talk about the early days of the band, the new compilation, live shows and lots more. So sit back, relax and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Andrew and Simon from the Brand New Heavies. Hi Simon, hi Andrew, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
It's great to have you both. Before we get into the new release and the tour, I'd like to ask my guests at the start, can you remember the first band or artist that made you pay attention to music?
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, it was my love was like rock and roll. So I love like Eddie Cochran and Little Richard and Fats Domino and you know, even Elvis, stuff like that. You know, that was the first thing that really got me excited. It was like, you know, that was back in the 70s. And there wasn't much access to music like there is now using the internet. So it was a kind of exotic thing. And that kind of followed through into the funk really later on in some ways, you know.
What about you, Andrew?
My parents are they're Jamaican, basically. And there was a lot of reggae in the house. My dad used to go and see his mum in Jamaica and bring back tons of 7-inch singles. And we used to play them. I used to sit in the front room playing them on the gram. It's this great big massive record player with a tuner built in, and just watch the records go around and listen. But I didn't have any idea about musicians or instruments or anything. I just loved the sound of the music, and it's so exciting putting the record on and putting the needle on the vinyl, getting so excited about what it was going to sound like. But the first band, I think, that made me think, oh my God, how do they make that sound? I want to do something like that. I think it might have been Chic or Earth, Wind and Fire. We had quite a cool music teacher, and he used to ask us to bring a record in at the end of every term of what your favourite record is, and he'd play it in front of the class. And I was quite close to the ex-drummer of the band, Jason Kincaid. We were good mates at school. And we both brought in a copy of September. We both owned it because we used to share our pocket money and buy adventures. But I think September by Earth, Wind and Fire was the first time I thought, wow, I wonder how they do that. I'd like to do that as well. For me,
I got a guitar, and I started to learn like Summertime Blues and stuff like that. All the rock and roll was quite simple, and we had this lunchtime guitar lessons. Me and Justin Fisher, Mrs. Wardle or something like that. It was a penny ago. And so I learned to play like and yeah, that was the beginning for me. We're mainly self-taught, the Heavies, actually. We're kind of you know, we didn't really study or go into it in any depth. There was a few like, I think, drum lessons and things like that, but it was more just like learning patterns rather than like notation and stuff like that or anything. Yeah. And then just jamming with friends, you know, which is how we all met, just jamming at each other's houses.
Well, the Brand New Heavies celebrate 35 years since the release of your debut single with Never Stop, the best of the Brand New Heavies, a new compilation, bringing together 21 hits. Can you believe you've been doing it this long? Like, it's been 35 years.
I think only when you look back, you realize how long you've been doing it, because we've been doing the same thing, you know, making music, recording, releasing, touring. We've been doing that from day one. So it's only when you look back and freak out at old pictures of yourself when you're looking nice and skinny and sexy that you think, wow, where did all the time go? We're still sexy. And we've still got hair. I think that's why we're still going. We're still quite hairy. If I let my hair grow, it will grow into an afro, but I keep it quite low. But yeah, hair's quite good. That sustains your career, I think, as a musician.
So you've probably been asked this a million times, but for anyone that doesn't know, how and when did the band form?
How? I'll do how, and Simon can do when. We were mates at school, and we just started jamming at the drummer's house mainly, and we were kind of imitating or riffing off James Brown style era funk music, and just jamming around with a bit of jazz fusion and just playing around really. And we started recording it on these lovely microphones that the ex-drummer Jason Kincaid's dad had. And we thought it sounded really good. So we went to this, we took the cassette. Well, I think we all went down one night, took a cassette of us jamming and played it and gave it to the DJ of a club called the Cat in the Hat. The DJ was called Barry Sharp. And he basically took it off us, played it through his headphones, and then played it to the crowd. And they carried on dancing. And we thought, wow, we must be good. So I think we started taking it a bit more seriously. The DJ, Barry Sharp, joined the band as a percussionist, and he started putting gigs on with us, playing at his club nights. This is way back in 87, 88, I think, 87, even 86, actually. And things just grew and grew. We got a singer, and we had record labels coming down to gigs, and we got signed to Chrysalis in 88. And we did one single with them. And then we got dropped, and we signed to Acid Jazz, released our first ever album, the eponymous The Brand New Heavies, the blue cover with the logo. And then we got picked up by an American label called Delicious Vinyl. And we had a hit in America, and then got re-signed to London Records, part of Warner Brothers, and then released Brother Sister, and there you have it. Things, the rest is history, as I say.
What ambitions did you have in the beginning for the band?
Success, I think, and fun, and lots of partying.
I mean, it did start out just like we kind of go around. You always go around to the drummer's house because it's easier to take stuff around to a drummer's house than them to yours. Their parents are used to the noise a bit more, accepted it. And we just jammed for a long time. Like every Sunday we jammed.
For years, probably, isn't it?
Basically, we were jamming a lot. And then that's when that opportunity came to sort of, we went to after that, we went to the Cat in the Hat, and they were playing all this super early funk records, like it was called Rare Groove then. And I think it was probably the first club in the UK, let alone London, to play like really rare records. And probably, not long after that, the hip hop community began like searching for old records to sample, and we were getting influenced by them. So that kind of all ties in a bit later. Like Andrew said, we recorded 3 or 4 tracks, and we thought the one track was going to be played in the club, I think more than any others, but it was in fact a tune called Catch That Beat. And from there, all the whole funk club scene kind of blew up. It spread to the WAG club. They started playing funk, and then people started doing warehouse parties. This is all before house, really. And in fact, Acid Jazz Records was a kind of joke name because we got dropped from Cool Tempo, which is a subsidiary of Chrysalis Records, because Acid House became really big, and Acid Jazz was like a joke name as a sort of counter to Acid House, because Acid House was like bloop, bloop, no instruments and stuff like that. But I was rather worried there'd be no more guitar in dance music, because I just really got into dance music, and it was bereft of instruments pretty much.
The band has always had extraordinary vocalists and collaborators over the years, such as N'Dea Davenport, Siedah Garrett, Carleen Anderson, Angela Ritchie. So what do you look for in a collaborator?
It's tricky because we all the songs are written, and they've been released, and a lot of them have been sung by N'Dea and Siedah Garrett. So it's a tough thing to do if you're an established singer or you're a solo artist, to join a band that you're not really going to be singing your own songs in. So it's hard finding the right person to do it. But one of the main things we look for is stage presence, because most of our career is live on stage. So you've got to have a bit of stage presence. You've got to be able to connect with the crowd and engage them, because they're staring at you for an hour and a half, and Simon and I as well. So yeah, stage presence, and you've got to be able to sing the songs. They're quite high as well, so you need a good range. And yeah, just it's a full commitment to be the singer of the Brand New Heavies. It's a tough job.
I mean, initially when we made the first album in London in the UK, it was kind of a smaller thing, and I think we tried it with London Records, and I think the legend is that they threw our cassette in the bin. Of course, now we're doing the greatest hits with them. And the English singer we had left anyway, and someone from Delicious Vinyl Records who'd had a big hit with a couple of hits with Tone Loc, like worldwide number ones, The Funky Cold Medina, and they had N'Dea on their books, and it was kind of their idea. Well, they sort of suggested, why don't we remake the album and she could sing on it. Now she comes along and she's fantastic because she's toured with Al Jarreau. She's been a dancer for Madonna, so she's ready to jump on the stage and really do her thing. So that kind of set a precedent for all the other singers, really. And so she re-sang all the songs, and we added Never Stop, and that's the song that got to number 3 in the R&B charts way back in whenever it was.
91.
Yeah, 91, and that's when. Because we had to deal with acid jazz, and then they licensed it to Delicious Fine, and then the UK woke up to it. In the meantime, there's a kind of thriving club scene which is growing, which is playing early hip hop, funk, a little bit of house. It's kind of before hip hop, really. So that's how the whole scene sort of grew. So then bands like Jamiroquai come along, and other bands like Galliano, and of course English have been going before, but they were like part of the whole thing. And
how did it feel getting that first hit?
I think you sort of take it in stride when you're younger. It's just all happening to you. When you look back, you're like, wow, we went to America, when we were like very young. Went to Texas and LA, and you go to New York, and it's kind of unusual because in our families and in our worlds and our backgrounds, there's no it's definitely exceptional. It's like we've been plucked out of the universe to do this thing, because it's just a crazy series of events that led to this worldwide domination experience.
I do remember hearing one of our songs for the first time on the radio. It was a track called Got to Give, which we released on Cool Tempo, part of Chrysalis, as Simon mentioned before. And Norman J played our single on a pirate station called Kiss FM. It was Kiss FM, wasn't it? Yeah, Kiss FM before they were bought out. And this is way, way back, probably 87. And I remember hearing it on my dad's music system in the front room again. And I thought, wow, is that us playing? It's an amazing feeling hearing your record and knowing that thousands of other people are hearing it as well. I never forget that. It was amazing.
When you hear your songs now on the radio, does it take you back to those times when you were writing and recording?
I hear a lot of them in retail environments, restaurants and shops and stuff. And yeah, you always get a tingle and remember the recording session or the mix session or the video or something. Yeah, and you just, you kind of feel that little bit of pride that people are still listening to it. It's pretty nice feeling. And you can tell your kids as well now. We've got kids. You can say, oh, that's Daddy's record. And they say, what?
I must ask about Siedah Garrett. She's an amazing songwriter. She famously wrote Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and she collaborated with you guys on 1997's Shelter album. So what was it like writing with her, and how did she get involved with the band?
Well, basically, N'Dea was signed to Delicious Vinyl for a solo album, which she was kind of keen to do and had it in her something she wanted to do. So she was off doing that, and it was a kind of a sort of weird period. So we started writing. We had a management at the time, Wildlife Entertainment, and they were hooking us up with different writers to continue writing until we found a singer. So we'd have a bunch of songs and just keep going, And she was one of those people. And she's such a fun, groovy person that it was just sort of like the cards fell that she's obvious to be the singer, and so she became the singer on the album, and we did tours and stuff like that with her. Yeah.
Sometimes is my favourite Brand New Heavies track. Can you tell me about how that came about, the writing process and the genesis of that song?
That was written by Jason Kincaid. Well, the music was written by Jan, and Siedah collaborated, did the lyrics. I mean, she's very, very professional. I think we all learn a little bit how to write songs from her, because you'd give her the music that we'd write. I think Jan may have done the demo for that himself, but you hand her a piece of music on a cassette in those days, and then she'd take it away, and then a couple of days later she'll send back a finished vocal or a guide vocal, a cassette, and then all the lyrics written out like a kind of factory, like a production line. She was very pro about that, but that's how it worked. So we sent her the music, she did lyrics, came to the studio, and she sung the song when we had all the songs put together. And she actually wrote something on our last album we did with Acid Jazz called TBNH. 2 songs. What are they called again?
Just Believe in You.
Yes.
It's My Destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones. Yeah.
Those are 2. And they're lovely, lovely little songs they are. So she's still hot. She's writing. I mean, she's got no time to write normal music. She's writing a lot of soundtracks for movies. No, sorry. She's doing a lot of plays and theatre stuff. So yeah, she's busy.
I was looking on Spotify and noticed that You Are My Universe is your most streamed song. Why do you think that song caught people's attention more than the others? And, even now it's still up there.
You Are the Universe. Yeah, I wrote that with her. Again, did the music in the studio and sent her the cassette. And what she put down just completely blew me away, because it's something that is not my strong point, lyrics. And for her to have used some of the little, there's some melodies that she picked up on the bass lines and chords and stuff. I was really shocked when I heard it. I think people like that song because it means it's quite a deep song, and it's self-fulfilling and it's positive, and it gives you a lot of self-confidence if you're lacking in that. I think it's, for some reason, it's very popular in Asia. If you Google online, there's tons of Asian bands, Korean, Japanese, from Singapore and stuff, that they always do covers of it. So it's a very positive song, and I think people like that bit of positivity and self-motivation.
Also, originally, Siedah said that the original line was "I am the universe," but she felt that might be a bit presumptuous.
Really? Wow, I didn't think that. So.
We had a letter actually to our management about someone who was not happy with life in any way, shape, or form, and they heard that song, and it's something doing something terrible for themselves.
Oh yes, Jesus.
And other people, said it's really motivational for them. It's like self-belief, isn't it? It's like a mantra.
That's it.
Or someone telling them they're the universe. It's we've got lots of levels to it, I guess, a lyric like that.
When you guys are writing songs, what do you think's more important, a great melody or a great lyric?
I think a great guitar solo is probably.
That goes without saying.
I think there's one of the things about the Heavies is that they're a really good musical sort of sound bed for a lot of vocalists, and they work with other people, and it's a different sort of thing, obviously. So I think they sort of go hand in hand. It's a kind of a thing altogether, isn't it? The energy of everyone working together is quite apparent, I think, in everything you've done. So that's hard to say, isn't it? I guess on every song it can be different, but obviously the melody and the lyrics are really important, but the music and the way the music's made and the way it sounds is also, gives it a heavy stamp and a sort of identity as well.
Is it always the music first for you guys?
Yeah, it's usually the music. It's always been the music first because we're musicians, I guess.
It could be a song. It's always the music first.
Ah,
not necessarily about songwriting, but about life. Because music it can be your best friend. It's the one that stays with you forever.
We're writing. Can you hear that? But I think melody. So for some reason, I always remember the melody. I don't really listen to the lyrics that much. I've never been a lyric type guy. More so now that I'm older. But I think a strong melody, even if it's just a guitar lick or a brass line. Sometimes some of the most powerful songs don't even have choruses. I'd love to have the list of songs that I've noticed recently that don't have choruses. But yeah, I mean, it's about melody and pace and the silences and the way the song's structured, you know.
We'll have to talk about Maria Mulder's Midnight at the Oasis. Fantastic tracks, one of your most popular songs. Why did you choose to record that song?
The record company asked us to. I think they wanted a bit of a fail-safe track that they could save the album if the other songs didn't work.
They wanted a cover, and I think you came up with the idea because wasn't it on like one of those compilation tapes from Lascelles?
Oh yeah, Lascelles Gordon, who was in the very first version of the band, rhythm guitarist. He's a DJ as well. He used to work with Barry Sharp from the Cat and Hat Club in the late 80s. And he used to he made us his compilation mixtapes, and that song was on it. And I always thought it was an amazing song. And it's something that isn't typically connected with soul or funk or dance music. And I thought, let's not do something obvious. Let's do something different that's got a nice melody. And we basically said to the label, let's do a cover of this. And they I think they grinned or laughed or whatever. But we spent a couple of days in the studio and came up with a whole new version of it. And they liked it. And yeah, it ended up being A-listed on Capital Radio and triggered the whole cycle of us, you know, getting bigger and bigger in the UK and you know, across the world. But doing something out of the ordinary, I think, you have to do that. Otherwise, you just won't get noticed, I think, generally in life.
Yeah, and doing a cover, it's nice to sort of really reinvent the whole song rather than just copy the original completely. So if you listen to the original, what we've done is very different, really. Obviously, the same chords and the same sort of form, but yes, it's funked up a lot more. There's a few versions of it we did as well, actually. Yeah,
there's a version of Midnight at the Oasis that I don't think was released. I think it might be on the Greatest Hits, or maybe I'm just making that up. But it should have been on it anyway. You will hear it though. You will hear it soon.
Mark Ronson is a super fan. He said the Brand New Heavies turned him on to soul and funk music, and he also wrote the liner notes on the new compilation. He said, the Brand New Heavies and their pitch perfect jazz funk revival were my musical coming out party. So you ended up working with Mark on your version of Kendrick Lamar's These Walls. So what was it like working with him?
He produced a track for us kind of remotely because he was working with Miley Cyrus at the time. So he got involved in that, and he did us a favor, actually. Didn't charge us $100,000, which is what he usually charges, because he just loves the band so much, and we definitely appreciated that.
I was rather chuffed. Before he was famous, he DJ'd in this really magic sort of little club underneath a pizza restaurant in New York. It was some really hip place. And he said to me, because he's a guitarist, he said, my two favourite guitarists are you and Nile Rodgers. And I was like, you know, I mean, I think that's very, very kind of you indeed. I don't know if you meant it. Maybe it's just being super nice to me. But yeah.
He's a great guy. He invited us to play a live show at his 40th at Soho House. No, was it called Soho Farmhouse? So he flew everyone in, including N'Dea, and we had a wicked gig, actually. Mick Jagger was there as well. So he definitely likes the bands, I think.
Is there a particular collaboration that stands out as a favourite or most memorable?
Well, I mean, you know, I don't think we really see them as collaborations. They're just events in the history of the band. obviously N'Dea was kind of a crucial thing. We made 2 albums with her. I think she's the most associated with the band, you know. It was great having Q-Tip on the remix of Sometime, perhaps. And making the Heavy Rhyme Experience was really cool as well, because that's like a nice record with loads of different people on it. So it's like a really nice compilation cassette all over this interview. Yeah, you know, and when you think about collaborating or playing on stage with people, you know, supporting James Brown was really something for us. That was almost unimaginable. So meeting him and, you know, saying, I can say that I've shaken James Brown's hand, you know, as we all can. And that's quite amazing.
That was amazing. Incredible. We supported him at Wembley Arena a long time ago, very late 80s. And he was wearing a green suit and standing at the side of the stage, and he watched our whole sound check. I think he was trying to nick our brass section, actually, take it out the UK brass section and not fly over his own, but we didn't care at the time. And that's my cynicism of old age kicking in there. I was just on another level, knowing that he was watching us and listening to us play. I was blown away. And that also gives you a validation and confidence to continue and just accept that that you are good and you're gifted and talented. So yeah, James Brown, I don't think I would be able to play funk without listening to his music.
The band celebrate the new best of release with 3 special concerts in London, Manchester and Birmingham, accompanied by strings from the London Concert Orchestra. So what can fans expect from the shows? Will there be past members involved?
It was spoken about, but I think the strings are enough.
N'Dea, you know, she's got her own life now. She lives in Japan, in fact. You know, Siedah is really busy. It's also very expensive to sort of. It's quite expensive enough as it is, just having a much, much larger band. There's a lot of hotel rooms and burgers or fish and chips, depending on what day it is. And so it's really just the heavies as we are with augmented on the string section. I think it's going to be very beautiful. I'm looking forward to it because we've always loved strings and we've always had them on our records. Obviously, it's impossible to really have a section touring with you and stuff. So this is like a sort of what do you call it when there's something you want to do in your life? A box ticked, a bucket list sort of thing.
It's a daunting thing to do because we haven't worked out the show yet, but I don't think you can go wrong. The shows are going to be in 2 halves. We're going to have a kind of a pre-big time. We'll have the first half is going to be some of the early songs that we put together, some of the instrumentals, all augmented by strings, and then the second half are all the big hits that we had over the years. And yeah, it's a very daunting thing because we have to almost rewrite some of the string parts. We're working quite closely with Matt Roberts, who's doing all the scoring. The whole thing's going to be very magical because, as Simon said, there are a lot of strings in our songs, especially the disco ones, and to be able to hear a string section playing the actual string parts from the record is going to be mind-blowing, I think. And we're going to dress it up as well. We're going to style the string players and the band. It's going to look amazing. Mirror balls, the whole thing. We're very lucky to be the promoter of the show who's backing it. Is Raymond Gubay, and they're owned by Sony, so they've got a lot of money to sort of put into it and launch this, because if it's successful, and it's nearly sold out, so get your tickets quickly. We're going to do more shows, and we're going to possibly go abroad with it, and continue bringing that level of refinement to the Brand New Heavies. I think it's nice to do something new as well. Instead of the normal show, we've got another offering now, which is a whole massive performance there's 20 people on stage basically. So you cannot miss it.
If you were to recommend one of the Brand New Heavies albums to someone who had never heard the band before, what album would you tell them to start with? I
would say the first album called The Brand New Heavies, and then, well, the thing is we haven't done that many albums, so listen to them all, but start with the Blue album, which is our first album. It's called The Brand New Heavies.
And Brother Sister, if you want more bang for your buck, is a double album.
True. 16 songs on that thing.
And that's kind of like quite seminal. But actually, the last album we made, a lot of fans said, "What have you done to me? If you'd made that record back in the day, that would be like my favorite album." So that's a contender, you know.
That's a brilliant. Well. If I must say so myself, we've had amazing reviews, and it's such a shame that you know, the stars didn't align with certain people in certain record companies. But it's out there, and you are going to hear it because we're going to probably re-release it at some point. It's called TBNH. It's on Spotify. Have a listen.
Yeah, well, have been. It's a great album.
Thank you.
I'm going to put you both on the spot here. I want to make a playlist of the best Brand New Heavy songs, so you need to help me out. What are the 5 songs I should have on the playlist?
Well, Never Stop, because it's our first foray into fame. Perhaps the funky thing, I think the first thing we recorded was Give Me One of Those. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Dream Come True. I think the very first version of Stay This Way is pretty cool as well. Is that 5 yet? Is that 4 or 5?
I think that's 4.
and then maybe Bonafide Funk, just to show our little hip hop stuff. Getting hectic, it's getting crazy, it's getting hectic, it's getting wild.
The band, you've had such an amazing career with top 10 albums and 15 UK top 40 singles so far. If you could go back and relive one musical moment from your career, what would it be?
We had a show at just meeting Al Jarreau. I thought I was the most amazing thing ever. Meeting Al Jarreau at a concert backstage. It's pretty major. But you're talking about like a live, like a show experience sort of thing.
Anything in the studio, you know, something you would even like to go back and change?
There's a song called Close to You that I remember we wrote in a rehearsal studio called John Henry's up in North London. And I remember had the ideas for these chords and I was playing them and I never thought anything would happen to them. And suddenly I think Jan and Simon started playing to it. And then N'Dea started riffing off some lyrics on top of it. And within like a minute, the whole song was formed. And I'll never forget how amazing that felt. To hear something, a tiny, like three normal chords, and then, you know, emerged a song out of that. That's the part of the process that I love the most is going to a studio which is silent and then coming out with a song. It's just the most incredible thing.
Yeah, I was. We were in Whitfield Street Studios near the British Museum. I think everyone was in the mixing room, and I was in the live room. And I just was mucking about, and I put a bass drum on it and a guitar. And I played this note, like one note on the bass, boom, and then it's called boom, and the guys like came running through like, what's that? And I was like, I'm mucking about, don't muck about. And they said, no, keep doing it. I think Andrew grabbed the bass, and then we just turned that into like Fake.
Really? Is that how Fake started? Wow.
Yeah, I just mucking boom, and then like I remember, I think Jan was excited about it. So I hope someone was.
Yeah.
I think we did the whole song in like literally in the day.
Yeah, and that was with N'Dea in the room.
Yeah, like in like half a day, that came out like that.
I do miss those days because we had some serious chemistry back then. So yeah, stuff is magical.
For us music fans, music is the soundtrack to our memories. What song or album, when you listen to it, brings back the best memories for you?
The best memories?
Yeah.
George Benson, I think. I fell in love for the first time when Love Times Love was out, and I can't barely listen to it now. Actually, it does take me right back to being 14 or 15, and when you first have that feeling of, you know, thinking that you're in love with another girl and all that, you know, that obsession and lovely feelings in your tummy and stuff like that. But that's the song that album was quite big that summer. And Love Time. Any song off? Is the album called Love Times Love? I think it is. But any song from that album, George Benson, Love Times Love, for me.
I think for me, my go-to is like Electric Ladyland because I've had so much pleasure out of that record. But one record I used to really like was because my friend would come around to my house and we listened to it before going to school. Leveling 2. And it had a little cough at the beginning and stuff, and then a great guitar solo in it and other bits and pieces. And yeah, that's a good one. But you know, that's more your rock side of things.
It can be anything. What song or album is your guilty pleasure?
I think Genesis is my guilty pleasure because I had one album when I was younger, Seconds Out, which is like a live album with what's his name? Phil Collins singing all the songs on it. But then I heard the original version with Peter Gabriel singing, and I was like, wow, that's a different sort of gravitas. So I got quite into Genesis, and you know, I've even been to see this band called The Musical Box that have like the original flap lights and the original instruments, you know, the Mellotron and stuff. And that's quite that's definitely a guilty. I shouldn't even be saying it on the podcast. Well, I love it. I love it.
My guilty pleasure. I don't know. It just came to mind, but there's a song by Gary Barlow called "Back for Good." Was it Gary Barlow or Take That?
It was Take That. That's a brilliant song.
That song is such a beautiful song. Love it.
Yeah, that's a massive song.
Absolutely. So, guys, what's left on the musical bucket list for the Brand New Heavies before we wrap up?
To make a lot more music. We haven't released anything since 2019, so we have to get very busy, and that's happening. We're in the studio next week. We can't say why, but we're in the studio next week for 3 days. Initially, then we're back in, I think, in a few weeks after that. But I would like us just to make an album a year, not necessarily release them every year, but just build up a massive library of music so that when we're too old to play, which is in about 100 years' time, there's still music there left to come out, you know, for our kids to listen to and our kids' kids. So just loads of music, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.